speaking.
Cool.
All right. My name is Keandria Green, and I am interviewing Nicole Perez, who is a licensed clinician for our current project. Hi, Nicole.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing great.
Good.
Do you mind stating your first, last name, of course, I just said it, and your credentials for me?
Sure. Nicole Perez, I'm a licensed professional counselor in Texas.
Thank you so much. Okay, so the first question I would like to ask you, just thank you again for agreeing to do this with me. This is for class purposes only.
Sure.
It will be used for nothing else. So can you tell me about what you enjoy about Tri-County?
Yeah. Definitely the clients and giving back. I think that it gives you like a sense of purpose.
Mhm.
I've had a period where I left the center and ended up coming back because I missed it so much. So for me, it's rewarding and it feels good and positive to help those that don't really have much.
No support?
Yeah.
Okay. And how do you advocate for the counseling profession in your current role here?
That's a good question. I think as clinicians and as counselors, we all kind of do in our own ways, right?
Mm-hmm.
I do think it helps that we have to get like CEUs, continuing education, and things like that. I think we advocate for counselors when we do things like at the state level, when we try to like get on committees and do meetings, things like that. Also, just in our work with clients, I think that they see kind of like the benefit of what we do and how we give back.
Yeah, especially here, right? Because
Yeah.
we offer a lot of resources that most organizations don't offer.
For sure, and it's a lot different from like a private practice, for example, right? Just completely different model, but I think we're able to advocate and even as peers with other counselors, we're able to like come together and do what we can to give back. So it's super important.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's great. And what has helped you in your career and in your continuing education and even in your associations help you become a more effective counselor?
Definitely continuing the learning. So continuing to like learn what I can about hot topics or like new trends. You wouldn't think that it like impacts clients, but it really does because they hear about current trends and they're like, well, I think I have this, or I'm diagnosed with XYZ. So that kind of gives you a chance to be like, well, here's what I know about XYZ, so let's talk about it.
Right.
And you can kind of educate them as well. So yeah,
kind of like a 2 minds are better than one.
Exactly.
And you kind of just bounce ideas off of other counselors and add your input as well to kind of enhance your knowledge and enhance others' knowledge. So y'all work as a team.
So always learning, I think, is I know the CE requirement is like a state requirement, but it really is beneficial because you get to stay in the know and in the loop about stuff that you may not otherwise think about or hear about.
Right. And I think that's great too because the counseling profession is always changing, and it seems like it's changed so much in the last 5 years. Due to like social media influence and all kind of other new, like you said, trends that are happening now. So, continuing education is important because you can get lost about who clients are now. Like clients in these days won't be the same as they were 20 years ago. Like they're totally different issues.
For sure. And I think even like our DSM, our diagnostic manual, if you think about that, like even the new DSM revision pulls from research, right? So all of these things are like looked at, like especially the hot topics like gender dysphoria and autism, all of these different like things. So I think we kind of have to, we have to look at that stuff.
And that was a great point. I wasn't even thinking of that like right away. So and that's a huge one because not only do people who are suffering or, kind of going through the struggle of gender issues, we have to kind of know as therapists how to help people with those issues, especially if we don't experience those issues.
Exactly. And whether or not you agree with it or disagree, that's a whole side too. So I think we have to be kind of neutral helpers.
Exactly.
Which most of us are naturally if we've gravitated towards this field.
But it can be difficult, right? It can be difficult because you don't know if you're really helping by agreeing or being agreeable to certain topics and certain things. Like you don't know if it's really truly helpful, even though it's client-centered or client-based. But you still kind of need to know how to help people even when you don't agree with everything that, you know, they
Yeah.
believe in or
Yeah, absolutely.
such and such, you know?
Yep.
Yeah, that's amazing actually. I didn't even think about that. So as far as you, what are your practice specializations? What do you specialize in?
So I don't really have like a dedicated specialization at the center. I don't actually do counseling in my current role. I'm an administrator, so my license is used in other ways, right?
Yes,
Like
ma'am.
oversight of different programs, assessments and things like that. So I wouldn't say I have like a specialization. I can tell you that growing up here at Tri-County at the center has kind of formed my like clinical framework in a similar way as Tri-County. So with that being said, I guess it would be like a person-centered approach, very trauma-informed, and then I'm really super interested in kind of like mind-body connection, sensory motor therapy, like kind of just looking at how like the nervous system and the body is a part of the brain, and I think oftentimes they're looked at as separate.
Right.
So personally, that's just something I really like. I would specialize in if I was like solely doing therapy. I'd be like, let me do all the research and get some credentials.
Got you. So I would consider your specialization being a support to aspiring clinicians.
Sure.
Because me, for example,
Yeah.
You are my supervisor, or you're my
Yeah.
administrator. So I would definitely see you as a support and an advocate for me in my role. And can you talk a little bit more? 'Cause I think we skipped over that. Can you just talk a little bit more about what we do here, like as far as who do you administer, what program?
Oh yeah, of course. So in my role here at Tri-County, I oversee all of our adult mental health outpatient services. So under that, we have a few different programs. Different levels of care is what the state calls them, ranging from like our most stable to our most sick and severe, quote unquote, clients. And then under that, I also have like a newer branch of clinicians, which would be like our peer support specialists, and then kind of some adjunct services like translation, things like that. So I kind of oversee the operations of the outpatient center as a whole, and ensure like the clinic is running smooth, ensure that each of the programs are smooth, and then of course like client care, making sure that that's not impacted or impacted negatively, right?
Right. So I never really considered a clinician being able to be in your position, because I'm always assuming that it's like every man for itself. So I think that was really different for me coming here to Tri-County, because I never saw this field as a place where you could actually do that.
Right.
I mean, it makes sense, but I never really had a chance to literally see it, work with it, and you know, work with somebody like you.
Sure.
So that was very inspiring, that not only do you don't have to just do solely counseling, because the burnout is real, and if you ever want to try to change what you're doing in your profession, there's different levels to it.
Yeah.
So that was encouraging for me as well, to know that you don't actually have to do counseling.
Yeah.
One-to-one, direct services. You can actually oversee programs and make sure they run smoothly, because I mean, it takes a good counselor to know what good counseling is. And
yeah, for sure. And I agree with you. I think that's something I never realized too. I'm like, okay, just gonna be a therapist,
Hope I don't get tired.
Yes, but these roles are supposed to be licensed LPCs because they pull from so much clinical background. So this role is kind of like two-tiered, in that you have your clinical, your LPC hat, where you can think critically about client cases and their care and oversight. But then you also have the administrative piece, where you are at a desk all day, essentially, managing programs and in the health record. So it's a good role, I think. And there's quite a few roles like this here at a community center. So if you like it, stick with it. Definitely.
I love that. I would definitely need some more, face-to-face with clients, so I can kind of get my own niche and my own, my own flow of what my personality will be like as a counselor.
Yeah.
But it's really good to know that there are other options to move up, because like once you get tired of that, or if you ever get tired of that, like it's like, what's next? I don't want to have to even think about going into another career. So you put so much time and investment, so it's always good to know what other opportunities are in this field.
Yep.
And I think that's kind of what I've been learning from you. And
Yeah.
I would love to support people, you know, because I feel like leaders need good leaders.
Yeah.
And we all can't be chiefs. There
Right.
have to be some Indians, you know what I mean? But I think if you have leadership qualities, I think you provide a lot of great knowledge and experience that comes with leadership. So
Sure.
I never thought about administration in
Yeah.
that aspect, because I don't think most organizations even have that type of structure.
Like oversight.
Yeah, it's like an executive director, and then it's everybody else.
Mhm.
There's really not even that many levels to administration. It's just everything goes
Yeah.
straight to the executive director. So a lot of stuff falls through the cracks because they really cannot
Yes.
manage the amount of programs that they actually oversee.
Right, and all of our stuff is kind of dictated like by the state,
Mm-hmm.
which is a good thing because we do have those like checks and balances they call them, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah. Well, that's good.
yeah.
Thank you for that, Nicole. Okay, so the next question I would like to ask you is, are you involved in any professional counseling organizations?
Yeah, so I'm involved in two. With the NBCC, I do have my National Certified Counselor
Mm-hmm.
credential, if you want to call it that. And then when I went to Laterno, I got linked up with Christian Counselors of Texas.
Oh, wow.
So I don't have a whole lot of involvement just because of what I do in my current career. Like I don't attend like seminars and things like I should probably.
Mm-hmm.
But regardless, I think organizations can be a good source of support. What's really cool is if you're on these email lists, you'll get like hot topics in your field, current trends, current concerns, you know, things that you would completely miss.
Right.
So I think any organization you can get involved with. I think I'm still a part of Psi Chi as well, you know, from undergrad.
Yeah.
But again, I don't really do anything with them, but definitely go for it if you have the opportunity.
Yeah. Because I think they're, I would like to get in one, especially for certain social issues that I kind of, you know, am interested in, and only for the basis of, like you just said, those kind of quick little nuggets that they give you, like, because nobody can officially just be all in to attend everything, but just kind of doing something, I feel like is better than nothing.
For sure.
And just whenever you're just scrolling, like, oh, what's going on in counseling? It's like, that's still very helpful, even if you don't, you know, fully immerse yourself into it. And you mentioned that you were a part of a Christian counseling organization. Was that helpful for you? I don't know, I'm not gonna assume that you ever spiritually get weak. I know I do.
Sure.
So does being a part of that maybe kind of help with kind of dealing with some of the deeper issues that we kind of experience with clients when we know that they're spiritual, but the client might not know that some of the issues they have are spiritual issues?
That's a good question. I think I would rely more on like peer consult for that, like my other LPC friends and supports. Not to say that that's not a support, but I haven't personally relied on it as a support for that. But that's a great question, and I do think that's something that comes up. So relying on like organizations or your peers, supervisors, leaders, because most of the time they've been there before, right? Either personally or with the client.
Right.
So, yeah.
I might go a little bit off grid real quick, but
yeah, you're fine.
Whenever you did provide, you know, counseling, did you have issues incorporating your Christian views with clients, or did you kind of go off of their own feedback of when they brought it up?
I honestly never had issues with it, mainly because I wouldn't force or push anything or talk about anything. It was just, I feel like how I presented myself through God and through His guidance in me that allowed me to do that. I know that's kind of a weird answer, but
it's an amazing answer, because that's kind of how I feel too.
Yeah, it's like you don't have to directly talk about your faith or what you believe in order to influence a client. So I think as long as you're being that person-centered, honest person with yourself, with your clients, then that's how God will show fruit to them. Yeah,
that's kind of what I've been getting to, because you don't ever want somebody to feel like, you know, your beliefs are the only one, or you can't understand them because they don't believe in anything or believe in what you believe in. So I feel like that's like the only way to really, on this level, incorporate Christianity into the practice. Is kind of just showing up as yourself and showing up as a child of God and presenting yourself as somebody who, you know,
who's honest and faithful.
And kind, and just shows.
And genuinely there to help, right?
Exactly. And not just being somebody who
Right.
who kind of embarrasses God. You know what I mean? That it just really boils down to that. Just be a good person and treat others how you want to be treated, and that's kind of the Christianist way to practice.
I think so.
Seems so. Yeah, just be somebody that represents God in a way.
Right.
I agree 100%. The next question I would like to ask is: Are there any legislative or governmental policies, issues that you have encountered while being in the field?
So I don't have any specific examples for you, but any kind of like legislation or state guidance directly impacts our center. A lot of our programs have like fidelity measures, audit requirements. All of those things are run through the state of Texas, either through like HHSC, the Health and Human Services Commission, Department of State Health Services. All of those things are kind of funneled through. So yes, I do think like majority of our programs, rules, audit requirements, measures, all those things are impacted legislatively. So obviously I don't have like specifics I could give you, but yeah, I think all of our programs are impacted.
So if nothing else, the most important thing is just kind of making sure that if you are in a position like you're aware of what's going on at all times, to make sure that everybody's job is safe and make sure that clients are getting the proper care based on the laws and whatever, requirements are, set in place.
Yeah, absolutely.
Ooh, it's a lot, huh? Because that's always changing, right? I'm assuming.
It is. The benefit though is I have people above me and I have a lot of peers. So it's not like just me, you know, we've got a lot of people on board that are also looking at those things. So.
Okay, and they kind of just, everybody has a part in it and they all just break it down. Like somebody's in charge of research. Somebody's in charge of overseas, somebody's in charge of passing things down.
Yeah, and then if you're ever unsure, like you can always ask questions and no wrong question you can ask.
It's a lot of support.
Yeah,
I get that as well, and that's very encouraging as well to be here and be a part of something like that. Because there's nothing worse than being somewhere where like nobody knows what's going on and you're practicing and you're doing stuff illegally and you don't even know. Especially when you have a license, right? Because you only get one chance to have a license. So.
Exactly, and especially with Medicaid rules, as you know, there's a lot with that. So.
Right. It's very close watch on us. Okay, now one of the last questions I want to ask you is, what relationships do you have with other human service professionals, emergency or crisis response teams that help with collaboration with our clients here?
That's a good question. I think I have too many to count, hundreds. Mainly just because I grew up here, like I said. I've worked here 10 years, so I've kind of created those relationships over the years. In addition, like working in different departments, you get exposed to like different people, different groups, different meetings, different organizations. So I've kind of compiled those. So if you keep working here, I think you'll continue to
gather my resources
and tons of LPC friends, like too many to count. Just because we all end up going back for our license. So. Right.
Yeah. And this is my first time ever really working with LPC, so
yeah, it's great, isn't it?
I love it.
It's a lot of like-minded people, which is interesting.
Exactly, and I think that's kind of what has motivated me to continue my education and to also I can envision my future, and then I know for sure it's something I want to do.
Yeah.
So you don't ever really know in most professions until you get there, like, oh no, I can't do this, and I feel like it's already too late.
Sure.
But in the counseling profession, I think you can't really go wrong.
Yeah.
Because we are all in the helping profession in a way, and I've had a great experience so far.
Yeah, I think if your heart is in it, if your heart's truly in it, which I do see that in yourself, then you'll go far. Yeah. There's no reason to question it.
Yeah, thank you for that. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
It's always good to know.
Yes.
Yeah, but I feel like what I've just noticed lately is that you can't fake this field.
Exactly.
If you don't do well, it will show in a whole bunch of different ways. The clients will see it. You will be totally drained from it, and you can't get far,
Sure.
Kind of not being genuine in this field.
Yeah.
So.
I think that's why God plays such a big part in it, like we talked about.
Yeah, truly. Yeah. So, well, that wraps up the interview, and I want to, again, thank you so much for your honesty and for taking the time out to share with me and help me complete this project.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you, Nicole.
Thanks.
All right. Thank you.